Hey, this is Nate again with Nonessential Media. Thanks for joining us for another episode of We the Fandom. Just a reminder advisory, this show's topics are safe for most ages, but the show is unscripted, so we wanted to issue another general warning just in case you are listening with small children or professional setting. Enjoy this episode. Welcome back to We the Fandom. This is Nate. Joining me today is
Cheyenne.
All right, it's time for our very first Retcon episode. We are handling Alien 3. If you guys aren't familiar with the movie, it came out May 22nd, 1992. It's directed by David Fincher, who went on to work on better films like The Curious Case of Benjamin Button and The Social Network. It's got a whopping 4 screenwriters credited, including Walter Hill and David Giler, I might be pronouncing that wrong, who had previously worked with James Cameron writing Aliens. As far as the Metacritic score, it is 59, with a user rating of 6.3. Rotten Tomatoes has it at a 42%, and the audience score is about 47%. I argue that sounds about right. Cheyenne, you said it seems kind of high to you.
It, honestly, yes. Especially considering at that time we didn't have the later films.
That's fair. A lot of my basis is built on the fact that I've seen what comes after it, and this is a much better film in comparison.
But at the time, that was all they had, so
yeah, it's
with the other 2 movies, I would have been sorely disappointed if I had not yet been born.
Moving on to there, I figured we'd take a moment to talk about our own relationships with this movie. I don't know about you, Cheyenne, but I watched Alien when I was a kid. My grandma got me into these movies, pretty much got me into horror in general. And so I watched Alien, and it terrified me. I watched Aliens and thought, I'm the biggest badass in the world. And then I watched Alien 3, and then, what the fuck did I just watch? What is this? Although as a kid, I couldn't really point my finger other than just like it was a weird movie.
It really is, especially with all of the established storylines and everything that we have with the previous 2. It really deviates.
Yeah.
But yeah, mine's kind of similar. I, watched it when I was younger. I definitely remember watching Aliens more.
Yeah, no.
It was my former stepdad's favorite of the series, so we watched that one a lot. But I do remember watching Alien 3, and I just was like, what?
Yeah, there's a lot of things introduced in this movie. You're just like, okay. All right.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Even the things I don't hate, I'm still like, okay.
You don't hate it only because there's way worse things that occur in the rest of the movie that you hate more.
It's true. Very true. Okay, well, why don't we go ahead and give a brief synopsis of the movie. We're just going to do this off the cuff. So this movie opens breaking your heart if you liked Aliens.
Yes.
Because it just, without any prompt or
preamble.
Yeah, it kills off 2 fantastic characters with Hicks and Newt. Hicks dies by being impaled by a support beam, and Newt drowns in her cryopod, which is
after they're ejected from the ship due to a fire.
Yeah, there's an electrical fire started by a face hugger, which I think it's implied it melts
it melts some wiring and things catch on. It like melts the plastic casing and things catch on fire from there.
To get into the cryopod. It launches all the life pods into like an escape unit.
Yes.
I can't remember. It's like EEC or something.
EEV,
like that.
Emergency Evacuation Vehicle is what I'm guessing it stands for.
And then when that crash lands onto
Fury 161.
Yeah, Fury 161. I was trying to remember if there was like an LV or something in front of it.
No.
I don't think they ever explained with the LV. I always took it as like what did I have on my notes? It was like I didn't write it down, but it was like life, like livable planet or something. Like I can't remember what the designation was anymore. But who knows? I don't know. Or like Living Viable or something like that. I think
Life Viable?
Life Viable. That's
would make more sense.
Yes. I don't know. I tried to Google it, and there were things ranging from like, oh, well, NASA, the letters NLV stand for like the type of vehicle that touched down. And it's like they named the planet after the vehicle. Like, what? The
lunar
ship touched
vehicle.
down. Yeah, I'm like, what? And there was another one that was like, I heard a rumor that Ridley Scott like won a bunch of money in Las Vegas gambling, like, and the 426 were like cards he had or something like that. I was like, what?
Okay, then.
Stupidest rumor I've ever heard. But yeah, whatever the in-canon reason, they don't have that for this planet. It's just 161 Fury.
Fury. I think it's the Furiona or something like that. It ends with an N.
Furiosa. I'm like Mad Max crossover. Let's go.
But the EEV lands in the water, which is why Newt ends up drowning.
Ooh, it didn't show it landing in water in the theatrical.
Yeah, that was one of my bugs with it is why, like, it's an emergency vehicle. Why is it, I mean, it obviously has to have some rudimentary landing. Whoop. It just falls into the water because Ripley somehow, it's never really explained. Well, we can kind of guess it's probably the face hugger that kept her alive long enough to escape the pod.
Oh, she's not in the pod
No, in the special edition.
She's still in the pod.
In the special edition, she washes up on the beach.
Oh.
And that's how she is found.
Oh, no. In the theatrical, it actually cuts from inside the pod, then, like, removing a panel so they can come inside. And it's this really long, boring scene that took forever to get through with them. Just like, oh, how many people do you think were in there? And they're like, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4. Like...
See, and that actually makes less sense because why did Ripley how did her pod get out of the vehicle?
Well, it's all
and then how did she survive while Newt drowned in her cryo tube? Like, how did she manage to get woken up enough to get out of the cryo tube?
Facehugger's like, hey, you need to wake
so
up.
at least in the special edition version with her washing up on the beach, it actually makes a little bit of sense because she obviously got out of the tube and
Yeah, I think in the theatrical it just sort of implied like whatever, like just in Newt's tube something went wrong and it flooded.
Okay.
So she was trapped inside the tube and drowned, and the only like solace we get is Charles Dance being like, I don't think she was awake during it. Like, good news, she wasn't awake to the fact that she was drowning in this metal and plastic fucking coffin.
And then for Hicks, he was impaled by a beam, but I don't know if it was in the theatrical version, but in the special edition, it like shows him and his face is all like severely disfigured. Like, how did that happen to him?
Yeah, I think it points at him.
Like, it's not in he's not even in the tube. He's not even, like, he's on the other side of the tubes because they're like against a wall, and then you got the other wall. And he's like just kind of like thrown about, and he's all like severely disfigured. His like jaw is hanging out.
Clearly they weren't happy he wasn't coming back.
There's a lot of things that I'm just like, how
I'll have to look into that. I'm really curious if the script was written and a role was offered to him and he turned it down, or if the script was already written just to kill him off so that Ripley would be on her own.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's brutal. Sorry anyone who really loved Aliens like we did. That's
it's a terrible way to go out.
But yeah, no, in the theatrical, she gets rescued, and then Newt and Hicks' body are taken to the morgue, and she wakes up in a hospital where she meets, I already spoiled it, she meets Charles Dance, who plays the doctor.
Whatever his name is. We don't remember. I almost want to just
literally
like
just
IMDb it.
And I can't remember his character's name.
Neither can I.
Best support character in the movie, at least the first half.
Yeah.
Anyways, at this point we learn that Ripley has crash landed onto a double Y chromosome work prison planet.
Maximum
security, mining and refining work prison planet awfulness.
Yeah.
Which has its own set of questions. What I want to know is there another, like, did she just barely miss the double X chromosome refining planet on her way? Like, she caught the edge of that one, and it was just like, nope, we're going to the men planet.
Well, and it doesn't even make sense. Do they call it a double Y chromosome when...
Yeah, it's also, that's not how chromosomes work.
It isn't, so I'm just like, I was watching that, and I was like, that literally makes no sense. Why are we calling it a double Y?
They're so manly. They refuse to have an X chromosome in fucking biology.
Is that why they're all
Stupid.
murderers and rapists and everything? And why they're on the
X chromosome?
Clemens, the doctor's Charles Danson's.
Clemens.
Yeah. Had to look it up because it was going to annoy me.
But anyways, I guess I get kind of the idea. They wanted Ripley to feel isolated, but not have her be alone. So the idea to put her on a planet full of men, particularly violent rapists.
Right.
I like how every character who talks about, like, their crime, there's none of them who are there for, like, white-collar crime at all. They're all like, we're all murderers and rapists, and it's like, tax fraud, like...
Would someone who committed tax fraud be in a maximum security prison, though?
Probably not, but, like...
Because it is a maximum security prison.
Something else. Why is everyone there rapists? Like...
And murderers.
Yeah, even the good prisoner, the leader of them, is still like, I was a rapist of women. It's like, bruh, like...
Right?
Jesus. But anyway, yeah, she lands on this awful planet, which, like we said, is inhabited only by, I think they said 25 prisoners.
Yes.
That are running, like, a skeleton crew, maintaining this facility.
Probably they were given an option. They probably had finished their sentences and were given an option to leave, but they'd probably been there for so long, everyone was just like,
actually, yeah. I don't know if it says it in the special, but the theatrical edition, they have a line where they say, like, when they closed the facility down, they offered to move the prisoners to a different world, and they said no, they wanted to stay, so the company kept it running just on this, like, skeleton crew. So
for 25 people.
For 25 people plus 3 officers. One of them had been a previous prisoner in that facility. Yeah.
And they have to run supplies out to them every 6 months for 25 people. Yeah, that literally doesn't even make sense.
So costly. Why would you...
It seems way better to just, like, kick them out and call it a day.
Yeah. We're not saying this movie makes sense.
No, it does not.
Anyway, we quickly learned that there was another facehugger on board, which I questioned how
my biggest question: how did both those facehuggers? Where did they come from?
Yeah, where did they come?
Where
did they come from, Cotton Eye Joe?
Like, where did they come from? It's not like they could have, like, clinged to the queen when she got onto the ship, like.
No,
and then where did they store them? Where did they hide until the one was trying to get in? How did the one was on Ripley, the other one?
Oh, spoiler! We find out later in the movie Ripley has a queen embryo inside of her.
I would hope if you're listening to this, you would already have watched it, so you are not surprised.
Either that, or you're just planning to not watch this movie, in which case you're welcome.
But yeah, there's 2 facehuggers.
Yes.
So where did they both come from? How did the one survive? I mean, in either situation, crash landing on the planet, especially if it was in the water. We have no basis for if they can survive in that environment.
Just paddling with their little finger claws.
Okay, now I'm thinking of a video of a tarantula swimming across the river, and that is terrifying with a facehugger in its place.
There's an alternate universe where there's a scene where it face hugs some kind of fish creature, and we get an aquatic xenomorph before Alien Resurrection.
Yeah, that's even more terrifying. No, thank you.
I'll pop over to that universe just to watch that movie.
Right.
Pop back. Where was I going next with our story? But anyway, yeah, there's no explanation. And I thought the whole point of the eggs was that the face huggers. Maybe this is expanded lore that I'm thinking of, but I thought the facehuggers couldn't survive long on their own?
It's actually mentioned in Alien 2 that they were only able to keep one alive before laying the egg when they were able to remove it from the person.
Yeah.
And even that seemed very, mostly dead when they saw it. It was very sluggish.
It wasn't a tank, but...
Yeah.
So I guess it's possible, but it's... I don't know, maybe it's expanded lore... Something about, the eggs can preserve them for a long time.
It is, yeah. I know that we do establish that because, obviously in Alien, you know, the eggs had been there for who knows how long. Yeah. And they were obviously still viable because of... Granted, we don't know if that
mist or whatever that's over them has some property.
Maybe, yeah.
Especially if we consider the implications from... the later Prometheus and Alien Covenant, the idea that these are weaponized monsters, bioweapons themselves.
This just opens up more questions.
Weyland-Yutani stealing other people's hard work. Make your own bioweapons, goddammit. Stop ruining Ripley's life with these goddamn xenomorphs.
Right. But yeah, we get...
Yes. The question of the two facehuggers are not answered. My question being, where did the facehugger, how did it get out of her tank? Because it shows, it trying to get in.
Right.
But it's still sealed.
Right, and so then it's implied it's still sealed in the theatrical version when they try to pry it open because there's no water in it. So how did it...
So somehow it got in whilst... Did it learn to use its fingers to...
While still maintaining the integrity of the seal of the cryotube. That makes no sense.
And then once inside, how did it get out?
Yeah.
Because we never see it again.
So that it makes more sense with the theatrical or with the special edition that she was not in the cryotube, that she washed up on the beach and the EEV was in the water. That makes way more sense.
I think overall it doesn't make any sense at all.
No, but at least we get an explanation of why there's no facehugger scene is because it was probably still attached to her and then it fell off as she was getting out of...
That poor fish or whatever was living in that lake. It was like, ooh, something tasty bites it. Oh, acid. Oh, God. It's in my mouth.
But yeah, their bodies...
It's really weak explanation for why there's xenomorphs there. Yes. Essentially it boils down to, it's Ripley's fault everybody died. But anyway, yes. In the theatrical release, it's... revealed very early on that one of the characters there has a dog, and that the dog was sniffing around the wreckage site, barking at what we presume to be the facehugger who was hiding. Mm-hmm. And then later, after the workers leave, we can see the facehugger crawling out from behind some of the wiring and stuff that's inside that crashed EEV. Mm-hmm. And then later on, we can see... when the owner of the dog finds it, it's got claw marks across its face where the facehugger grabbed onto it. Mm-hmm. So it's got these long, fresh scars over its face. And so it's implied in that one that it facehugged the dog. Eventually, the dog wakes up. Whether it then ate the facehugger or just left it wherever it was, the dog then returned to the facility, where it would then eventually produce a rather large and fully functioning xenomorph out of its chest.
It was an ox in the special edition, because the EEV had landed in the water, so they were using the oxen to kind of drag it. Okay. We get a whole team of them, and they are the ones who drags it to the facility. But there's no explanation of how the oxen came in contact with the facehugger.
Just gripping on as well as it could.
They just are dragging this dead oxen in, and they're like, oh, she just collapsed and is dead. So then it's just all of a sudden.
I like the dog more. I think, especially as we see the creature in its movements, it does make more sense.
It makes way more sense because that was one thing when you see it in full awful CGI glory.
It's so bad.
It's really little considering it came out of this huge oxen.
This big muscular.
Yeah.
Especially if you buy into the implied theory that it takes on traits of whatever its host was. And so the standard xenomorph we've seen are all based off of humans.
This one's four-legged and
and it doesn't have the big tubes coming off of its back. So
it's a little
turn its head a little more, and
it's very rudimentary, kind of very
much more animalistic.
Yes,
than the
on its xenomorphs. The four, it's quadrupedic most of the time and everything like that.
Movements. I don't know if any of the footage made it into the movie, but I remember at one part reading that they had actually brought in a dog and they put it in a little suit to try to have,
oh my god,
they were having difficulty getting the dog to act like the monster. I'm like, well, yeah. Which is probably why we ended up with such god awful CG. Because they're like, well, shit, the dog's not gonna work. What are we gonna do now?
It was really bad.
I remember seeing, I think it's in the special features, where they take the mask off the dog, and so it's the alien body and just
oh my gosh. Okay, now I have to go back and watch the special features. That is amazing.
Just what? Also, from what I understand, Giger wasn't involved in the design.
Really?
From what I heard, Giger actually, he went to the point where he made a statue of his concept and then sent it to the studio because he was getting so frustrated that every time he tried to help, the studio and the people responsible for the movie would ask him not to.
Really?
That he had this huge statue made and sent to the Fox Studios. And they didn't use anything with it. And in fact, if I recall, in the initial theater run, Giger's name isn't credited.
Ooh.
And it's not until it is on this version that I saw for the theatrical, but I think it wasn't until they released it to probably VHS at the time.
Yes, it would have been.
That's when you see Giger's name credited.
Okay.
So when you watch it, it'll say original creature design by H.R. Giger, and then it'll say new creature design or something like that, or by the list a couple other people.
Right. That's very wrong to me.
Yeah.
He's a huge driving force behind, even the Prometheus.
Yeah.
He was a huge driving force behind the creation of the creatures in Prometheus as well, and especially in Alien Covenant with the sketches that David had and everything. He was a huge... those are all based on his work.
Yeah, even the design of the original planet.
Yeah.
Doing, because everything alien, Ridley Scott gave to him, and it's go crazy.
Yeah.
And everything human, Ridley gave to another designer. So the idea that the contrast between the two would be so different.
So that you really get a feel of the alienness of every... Yeah.
Well, yes. Getting back on track as far as the story goes. Ripley in the theatrical notices some acid burns on Newt's
cryotube.
And so, in one of the most heartbreaking scenes I've ever seen in a movie, asked Charles Dance to perform an autopsy on the little girl we all learned to love so much, so that they can determine whether or not a chest burster is in there.
Yeah, if she had been impregnated by one. Which, oof. That's...
As I said the words.
I know. I'm that is wrong. That is so wrong.
Of course, there's no chest burster, as we'll later find out the acid burns are because of the face hugger that attached itself to Ripley.
Somehow.
At least it's implied. And they never expressly explain how the acid burns happened on the opposite side of the pod that was next to her. It didn't happen on the pod... it was the pod next to her, but it didn't happen on the side facing Ripley's. It was the other side.
Well, and where did all this acid come from? Yeah. It's only implied that it's from bleeding, so, why was this thing bleeding the whole time?
It cut itself shaving. Fast forwarding from there, they start to have people go missing. The first casualty is attacked by the xenomorph, but then falls into a fan blade.
Yes, he does.
I don't know if that scene is in the... I assume it's in the...
It is, yes.
But where Charles Dance goes to investigate, and it's just gore in this huge 365 degree.
Only thing that survived is a foot.
Yeah, they're like, how do you know it's him? Like, well, that's his boot.
And even that's pretty, like, the bits that of leg coming out are pretty grisly. It was, I don't know if it was in the theatrical version, but the special edition, like, you get some good, like, he falls in and there's, like, gore going everywhere.
I think it at least shows it rather quickly. The next kills after that are three gentlemen who are, I don't know, they're, like, mapping or, like...
Two. It was only two that died, because the third was...
Well, the third survives, yes. But of the three, two die. There's like they're using candles to like count.
Measure something because they don't have any other.
I love the low tech of the series, but it seems like there's gotta be a better way than to send three dudes down there and be like, okay, remember the amount of things you count.
Well, because the one guy that ends up surviving, he is like writing things down, so there's obviously some sort of system. Probably just busy work since it's their skeleton crew. They're just keeping themselves busy. I
also love that they don't have enough batteries for flashlights, but they've got 10,000 fucking candles. Where are they getting all the... When they send the shipments every 6 months, they're like, oh, damn it, guys, we forgot batteries, but we brought more candles. Look, these are the Yankee candles. They have sense.
Because Yankee is now bought out by Wayland Utani.
Hallmark, Wayland Utani /
Yankee candles.
That sounds hysterical.
Like, it's Yankee Candle on the front, and then you turn it around, and it's just a giant...
The big W-Y. That's our neighbor. Hello, neighbors.
So loud.
But anyway, we lose two gentlemen there, which I love that the first instinct of the two guys who watched the first one die isn't like, we should help them. They're like, fuck that. Like,
and then
just immediately like ripping grates off of things, just trying to get the hell out of there.
And then the other guy, the one who survives, is, I don't know if it was in theatrical, but he's just like found in the kitchen by like some like whoever had kitchen duty that day was washing dishes, just like eating a bowl of cereal or something, just covered in gore, just sitting there eating a bowl of cereal, turns around, big old grin on his face.
No, in the theatrical, I think Ripley and Charles Dance, who I will only ever refer to as Charles Dance, are, I think they're having a conversation. Charles Dance is trying to get the truth out of her, and he gets dragged in by the warden and, what was it, 85? Was that 85. Poor guy. Drag him in, and they get him, like, in a straitjacket or something like that, and like tied to a bed.
Yeah, so we get a little bit. Yeah, because we get a little bit it's just this guy. He's carrying a bunch of plates, and he comes in, and the guy is just sitting there eating like a bowl of cereal. Turns around, and he's just like covered in blood. Big old grin on his face, and then that's when they get the dude in the street.
Do they still have it where he's calling it a dragon?
Oh yes. The dragon. Because then Ripley's like...
dragon.
Tell
me about the dragon.
Yeah, because then Ripley's like, he's not crazy, guys.
Dragons are real.
He's wrong about it being a dragon, but he's not crazy.
Let me tell you about these dragons. A dragon tail, if you wish.
Oh my god. They don't have any scales, so we can go to Dragonland.
At this point, we're reaching, what'd you say, halfway through the movie. We've only
just about,
deaths. Charles Dance and Ripley get closer in a very uncomfortable, that was fast moment. To the point where he comments like, well, you're very direct. And I'm like, yeah. And then tragedy bestrikes the movie. We tragically lose Charles Dance.
Yes.
Who learns the most important lesson in the Alien franchise, which is if there's a vent in the middle of the room, don't stand underneath it.
I feel like the warden learned that one a little better.
A little better, yes. But it is a constant lesson, and one I constantly look out for in my daily life. Granted, there's no human-sized vents in any building I'm ever in. So that's something that only exists in the Alien franchise. Nevertheless, I'm well aware of where the vents are. There's 2 right there. God damn it.
That's why you make me sit on this side.
Yes, we lose Charles Dance, and Ripley has an encounter with this new runner-style xenomorph, which hisses at her, but mysteriously doesn't attack.
Yeah, it just kind of like gets really, really in her face, and it's just kind of like staring at her, and then it just disappears.
Yes, of course we find out later the reason why is because she still has that embryo in her chest.
Yes.
Now knowing that the xenomorphs are alive, she mad dashes to where concurrently a meeting is happening between the warden and the rest of the prisoners, and gets there just in time to yell that it's here, it got Charles Dance, and then the warden just whoop, like reverse Mario coming out of a pipe into the ceiling. Which
and everyone just freaks out and grabs chairs.
I know, that's my favorite, was just grabbing chairs.
No, that is great. Like, I love how their first instinct is to grab something, but all they can do is grab the chairs.
All they have in front of them is chairs. But I also know that's probably the fastest point between 2 kills we've ever seen in Alien.
Yeah.
It wasn't satisfied with that first one. Like, Charles Dance, I wouldn't want to ugly his pretty face. Let's go kill the warden. And also, in the room full of people, probably the boldest I've ever seen in Alien.
Yeah, just pulling them through the ceiling.
Yeah, no longer hunting the isolated cases. It seems to be doing that with all of them. With the exception of the first guy, who sort of stumbled upon it rather than
more like
his own dumb luck.
Yeah.
But it seems to be attacked, it's not as afraid, it's attacking people in groups.
Yeah.
There's 3 people in the room, granted, the other guy's tied down. He can't do anything.
Yeah, but there's 3 people, and then it's the room full of people.
With 20-something prisoners.
Because we've lost a few, so yeah.
There's been a few. And yeah, it just whoop, scoops them up into the ceiling.
I don't know if it was in the theatrical, probably not, but it later shows one of the prisoners mopping up the blood and just staring up into the ceiling.
No, that scene is immediately afterwards, and it's fucking comedy gold.
Yes, let's stand under the vent where someone was pulled through by a giant alien and murdered.
Terrifyingly sweeping this mess.
He's just well, that's just it. To me, it wasn't more terrified. It was more just yeah, okay, we're just going to keep a lookout for movement, but, I got a job to do, dude.
Hey, man, the warden's dead, half of our friends are dead, but fuck it, I got mop this floor.
And it's so much blood. He's just,
he's just
moving around.
At this point, at this point, now everyone's in on the gist.
Yes.
And after a scene with a little bit of deliberating, everyone pretty much just nominates Ripley to be in charge.
Yeah.
You've got a vagina, you be the boss. I don't know.
You've done this before.
You have an X chromosome, apparently. Yeah, Ripley.
And apparently just likes us. You go do it.
And so they devise a trap where they're going to burn it out of the vents in order to lead it into a nuclear
waste containment. Yeah, because it's got one door, huge, really thick walls. It will stay there.
Probably not.
But it can't on its own. It can't get out.
Yes.
As far as we know.
I've seen The Shining. It's not going to work out. They had Jack contained, and then whoops, ghost. Oh.
I think we're talking different kind of franchises, though.
Just saying, all it takes is one screw up.
But they also had someone
That's what I'm saying. All it takes is one screw
on watch.
Yeah.
So, the chance of ghosts magically opening doors is lessened.
There's a lot of weird things in this movie. I wouldn't have put it past David Fincher to throw a ghost in there.
It's very true.
tragedy befalls when the alien attacks a guy who was going up a ladder, and he dropped his flare or something like that.
Yeah, because they were using a very explosive liquid thing
very flammable, fuel or something like that.
Something.
That they had intended to light a fire that would burn through the vents, flushing it out into the open.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the alien was one step ahead of them and went, "Hey, what are you guys doing?" Kills the guy, and then somehow, despite not lighting the flare,
I noticed
tip
that
of the
too,
flare
yeah.
touching the liquid was enough to cause it. Now, I don't know, is the liquid so flammable that any friction causes... In which case, how are they mopping it?
And painting it.
And painting on things. Because then it would just immediately be
Well, it was probably
the striker or something?
Yeah, it was probably the striker end of it, and just hitting the metal floor at just the right angle caused the spark that caused it to all explode and set more people on fire.
I really want to set more shenanigans into that scene, reshoot it, where it bounces off the floor and then flips into the air and strikes on a metal pole and then bounces off a vent and then and then while it's lit, flips through the air and lands perfectly in the bucket. The bucket explodes. The flare then flies out of the bucket, lands into the oil finally, and then ignites.
No, good.
Just go full Happy Gilmore with the flare. Regardless, the fire then proceeds to do more damage than the xenomorph does through the rest of the movie. By murder.
Yeah, you're taking out a good half of the people left.
In the theatrical, the final count was 10 people.
Yeah, you're.
When you started with 25.
Yeah, you're taking you take out the half of the people left. Yeah.
So now downtrodden, Ripley starts to notice she's not her condition.
But they do manage to still get it in there. Don't just after it. Oh.
In the theatrical, they do not contain it.
And they do in the...
Oh, there's a big departure in the special.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's just that, if it's right there or just after, but they do eventually contain it in the nuclear waste room.
Yeah, not in the theatrical. It goes free.
Okay, interesting.
And so in the theatrical, after the plan fails, the criminals are discouraged, and Ripley's not feeling well, so she asks 85 to help her do a CAT scan in one of the cryo things, which that's cool if they could do that.
Yeah.
Which begs the question, why did you make Nuke go through an autopsy when you could have put her body in the CAT scan?
That is actually an excellent question, yeah.
Why did you make the guy cut her open?
Yeah.
You could have easily just take her body over to the... Especially since in the scene where they go to the morgue, they're coming from the CAT scan.
Yeah, they're coming from the
EV.
Yeah, that makes no sense.
It's dumb. But yes, we find out the only clear thing you can see in that hologram is the alien. Everything else, I'm I think those are lungs.
Yeah.
And then just perfect alien silhouette.
Which also doesn't make sense because they don't look like their final silhouette.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we find out that, and she suddenly is talking about how she has a queen, and
yeah, I don't know how she can tell it's a queen. We've never the only difference we've seen between chest bursters in the first two movies is really minor, just the fact that the one that burst already has developed arms.
Right.
Versus the first movie, it doesn't have arms yet. And in this movie, it's so different that by the time the chest burster actually bursts, it already has developed legs and then walks out of the room practically the same size as the damn dog it just burst out of. Which makes no goddamn sense at all.
And then there's the gestation. She's, in the first two movies,
it's rather quick.
Yeah, but in this one,
it takes however long this movie's supposed to take place.
They said that when they landed, the warden had contacted. They said it'd be about a week for them to send out.
Yeah.
So, I mean, going relatively off that, we're getting the implication that it's about a week. So that's a very long gestation.
Queens take extra time, I guess.
Apparently.
Bun needs more time in the oven. Anyway, yes, Ripley learns that she has this embryo inside of her, and we quickly determine that she goes on like a suicide mission where she goes to attack what she thinks is the alien, and it turns out it's just a pipe filled with maggots.
I think it's the lice from the
surface
surface of the planet, probably.
That makes so much more sense knowing that that's what that's supposed to be, because I was watching it, I was just like, okay.
Right, because without that information, it's
like,
very random, all these bugs, because
there's bugs, and there's a lot of them
that
come out of it. It's just like, oh!
Yeah, because in the special edition, we kind of get this idea that there's, like, parasitic, like, predatory kind of insects on the surface. And
like there's a whole
that's why they have the lice.
So the alien could have been like the alien horde of bugs.
Hey, maybe that's where the graboids from Tremors came from.
Good lord. The fourth missing piece. Graboids. I can't remember what the second evolution's called, but Ass Blaster is definitely my favorite. If someone listening to this, please tweet at me with the name of the second evolution. I'll probably look it up in about 5 minutes. But
probably, yeah.
There's nothing better than Ass Blasters. It's stupid.
Oh my god.
I thought Graboids was dumb. Just you wait.
Anyways, yes. Back on the alien train.
We learn from her suicide attempt that the xenomorph will not attack her, no doubt sensing the embryo inside of her.
Yes.
And she goes to confront the leader of the prisoners, whose name I cannot remember.
Dylan, I think, is what I saw when I was looking up Clemens.
And asks him to kill her, and he won't.
Nope.
Because he sees the fact that the alien will not attack her as a potential benefit, although it's not very well explained.
No.
My favorite bit of that is like she's holding onto the chain link fence, and he's like, "Yep, I'm going to kill you."
And then he hits next to her.
And then he doesn't.
Yeah, and considering
dick.
Well, considering he made it such a big deal about the fact that he's like a murderer, not like a rapist and murderer of women.
Yeah, I'm a murderer of women.
Like, he makes a big deal out of it, but he can't murder this woman.
Jesus, it's too good.
Something like that. Maybe it's because she's willing to die?
Maybe. But no, you have to be screaming. This isn't right. I have to mercilessly stalk you slowly from across the neighborhood.
But then in the special edition, the guy who had seen and survived the dragon, as he called it, he managed to escape. And he goes down to the nuclear holding.
Oh, so this is a shining situation.
And he's talking to the guy that they have posted there, making sure the doors stay closed, that it doesn't come out, whatever. Not that I feel like he would have been able to do anything, because he would have ended up dying from the xenomorph.
Yeah.
And that's no warning system at all. But he's standing there, and he's like, the guy's telling him he has to open the door. And then he ends up, like, cutting his throat and opening the door.
Love is an open door.
Oh my god, please stop. And he's like asking the xenomorph, like telling the xenomorph that he came, and he's asking for like further directions. And then the xenomorph kills him as well. And then it's out again. And that's so that we have
extended scene. He's like, oh great dragon.
Seriously.
I will help you find your wings.
Now that's also terrifying. Now I'm thinking of xenomorph with wings.
Cool. Now, this movie gives you a lot of implications. Like, if aliens crash landed on a planet with some kind of large creatures with like
flying,
some kind of large birds or something like that, could then could a facehugger then attach itself to a bird?
And then could the xenomorph have wings and come at you from the sky? That is terrifying. Come on, the giant xenomorph just coming at you with like leathery bat wings?
The only thing to save was send a bunch of graboids into space, let them evolve to the ass blaster phase. Ass blasters versus xenomorph. Hollywood, let's make this movie.
I might actually watch that.
This franchise can only go up, okay?
From that movie, yes, it only could.
Nowhere else it can go. There's nothing underneath the barrel other than bottom of the barrel. There's nothing else there.
And it would be like thriller comedy mix instead of just like the thriller of Alien versus Predator. You get like a very serious comedy mix. Oh my god.
Because they have to have the scene where a facehugger latches onto one of the little heads of the graboid.
Oh my god, and then you get a mix. Oh my god.
And so you have the other graboid head's like, hey! Get off one of my tentacles! Then you have to answer the question, could a xenomorph embryo pass through the little tiny tentacle head into the actual graboid? Or, like, how would that work?
Or would it just gestate in the tentacle?
Yeah, just a little tentacle version of the graboid.
And then it just bursts out of the one tentacle, so it's just, like, dragging.
Oh, God, how terrifying. The big graboid, like, looms over you, and you're like, oh, my God. And then, like, 5 tentacles come out, and then out of those tentacles come xenomorphs.
Oh, my gosh. Well, it comes at you, but then it's got, like, this one tentacle that's just, like...
It's trying to bite you, but the facehugger is still on it, so it's just like...
Oh my god.
Stop.
We have gone off the rails here.
I watch it so much.
I know, so would I.
Have it where it infects whatever the second stage that gestates inside of the graboid worm. One of those gets infected, but the other egg or whatever's inside of it is just a regular graboid second stage. And so they both burst and they're like, huh?
Oh my
just
god.
Look at each other like, wait, what are you? You're not like me. You're not like me. Dumb. Anyways. Moving on, they come up with a new plan where they're going to run the xenomorph through some corridors into, it's like a lead refinery.
A mold.
A mold, yeah.
The mold, yeah.
To what's probably the best part of the movie, in my opinion, where we're getting the POV of the alien and it's like scaling the walls,
right?
Running,
yes.
And it's got that Evil Dead vibe where it's chasing the people who are defenseless. They're just trying to lead it through these hallways before shutting doors, trying to get it to go in the right direction.
Yeah, because there's this, like, they call it the piston in the movie, but it's basically this giant moving wall, and that will block off the other corridors so that once it gets into the main chamber, like, it has no choice but to go into the mold.
Yes.
So,
which, after a few more deaths, finally works.
Yes.
At the expense of, oh my god, I already forgot his name. The leader of the prisoners.
Dylan,
yeah.
He makes it to the mold and is the one holding the xenomorph. Yeah. Because at that point, it's the guy that operates... That's gonna pour the molten material at Ripley and Dylan, and yeah, he.
And 85, but he's not there. He's waiting for the Whalen Utonic crew.
We don't.
Which gets slowly like they're coming. My favorite is it's so obviously CGI when they've got a ship that looks just like the Sulaco. Mm-hmm. It's in orbit and it's like slow. There's like a 45-second scene of it just like. Slowly moving across the night sky.
Yeah.
It's just like, it looks awful. Like, it does not look convincing that your ship... No. Star Wars did it better in the 70s. Like, how are you doing this wrong?
Yes.
B, like, it's not... I'm not like, oh my god, they're coming! I'm like, can we get back to, like...
the interesting action sequences?
Yeah.
But yeah, they're in the mold. Ripley wants to stay... But Dylan tells her, no, we have a deal, but then he stays.
Yeah, like,
and she's super pissed
I'm
about...
I'm gonna kill you when we're done. Never mind, I'm gonna die first.
Right. He's like, you're supposed to survive until the end, and she's just like, and then he stays down there, and she's just like...
Everyone knows how these movies go. I'm the black guy, you're the final girl.
But she's just like, are you kidding me? You're supposed to kill me! And he's just like...
What is this dumb arrangement?
Nope.
He's just like, oh, this is how it is now.
And then,
My favorite part is, like, when we see it attack him, there's a part of dialogue where she's climbing, and he's like, is that all you do? You bite?
Yes, he's just like...
He's just attacking.
Yes! And it's like, dude, how are you not screaming while this thing is tearing you apart?
I forgot to mention, my other favorite part is before that, Ripley goes to try to lure it herself, and she finds it attacking someone, and she's trying to pull it out of a hallway, but because it won't attack her, it's just ignoring her. So she grabs it by the tail, and this is just this really weird-looking tug-of-war. It's got this looking, like, 8-inch bladed tail, and it's just like, no!
But
I don't want to go with you.
But then they come out, the guy with the molten material comes over, drops it, and you're like, woo! And then it bursts out of the...
like Jaws leaping out of the ocean.
And so Ripley's like trying to speed climb these pipes, and the guy in the, is over there like, get the sprinklers!
It's like, it's really hot, turn the sprinklers on!
Yes!
So anyway, she does it, and it leads to my favorite moment of the entire movie, even better than Charles Dance, when they turn the water on, and the xenomorph just blows up.
But wait, it sizzles and steams and kind of like bubbles.
And you see like cracks forming in the head.
And then...
it just, like the Death Star at the end of Star Wars just destroys.
Yeah, it's very much...
mist. But our heroes don't get a chance. Our hero and that random guy. Our hero and random guy. Which I love that, like, at the very end, they show him, like, limping away.
Yes.
And he gets a scene where he pisses off one of the Weyland-Yutani guys.
He's just staring off into the complex as it's being shut down, and he's just like, what happens to him? I feel like we could get
they give him, like, a whole shot where he, like, smiles for, like, a briefest second.
Yeah, just staring into the facility.
It's like, is he supposed to carry the I don't even know his fucking name! Is he supposed to carry this franchise?
But and then 86, and as they're going to leave, 86 and the Weyland-Yutani people come down, and of course Ripley's like, haha, no.
Yeah, it's revealed that Bishop was just one of a line of robots that are built to look exactly like the creator, which is the most like. What? Like,
yeah.
The most humorous, like, I'm gonna make my robots look just like me. Like,
humility, dude.
Yeah. Which I love that they kill off 85 or 86, whatever it was. He has a real name, but, like, in the movie, they refer to him as that number because that's his IQ.
The warden is the only one that calls him by name.
Yeah.
But then the warden dies pretty early, so we only ever...
the rest of the movie, he's only called 85 or whatever.
Yeah.
But they kill him off just so they can have a scene where he hits this Bishop guy, who in the credits is referred to as Bishop 2.
I saw that too!
I was like, what? Not original Bishop, or Bishop to creator. No.
Bishop 2.
He hits him in the back with, like, a metal pipe.
Yes.
And you can't even see the wound. You just see, like, the blood trickling under his ear or whatever.
Which is why he's trying to convince, and he's him trying to convince Ripley, like, see, I'm not an android.
Yeah, but it's like...
Come with me, I'm human.
What a dumb waste of that. One of the other few surviving characters. As in response, the soldiers with him just fill him full of lead.
Yes.
This shot where they just, like, unload a clip into him, and then he just, like, falls off the level dead.
Yes.
It's just like, well,
and
bye.
And so they've gone back out over the mold.
The mold.
And they're, he's trying to call him back. Get Ripley to...
everything we could learn from it.
Yeah.
Like how to kill. It's like, what's it gonna fucking teach you?
And then they shoot the one guy, the other guy, in the leg.
The guy whose only thing is he's directing it over the magma. Shoot him in the leg. He goes down.
Ripley, in her refusal to bow to the man, decides that she is going to jump off this platform.
Yeah, she eats herself into the mold.
And in the special edition, we realized that there is no chest burster. She is just falling backwards into this magma.
Very Christ-like pose, too.
Yes, arms out and everything.
There's a lot of religious iconography in this movie.
Very much so. While in the theatrical, you get the chest... Super cliche chest burster.
The music swells as the chest burster, literally sensing the oh shit moment, bursts from her chest, and she's like, not today, and wraps her arms around it.
Is holding it like she's hugging it to her like a kitten or something.
We're going out together, you and me. The only thing that could have made that scene better, because it had the rise in music, it's so cliche. It's just if they held even longer on the alien tent, it'd be like, no!
I know.
Instead, we get that scene from Lance Henriksen that's just, no!
And then they are swallowed by the lava.
Yes.
And then you get the scene with the guy being walked out of the decommissioned, now empty facility.
I don't know if it's the same in the special edition, but in the theatrical, there's a weird, 4 or 5 shots right after that where they're, showing, the empty rooms of the facility.
Yeah, they do that first in the so you get the empty rooms and lights are being shut off.
But it's why are you you could easily do that with one. We don't care about this place.
No.
We're not oh, remember the memories we had in locker room B. We don't give a shit.
Remember that guy who got destroyed by the giant fan?
And then none of them are anything that stood out to me as that's where this scene happened.
Right.
The ones random around.
Well, I think one was the cafeteria.
Oh, okay.
And that was it. It.
Also, when the Weyland-Yutani people arrived, I noticed someone took the time to stack all the chairs.
Yes, all the chairs are stacked in that final scene.
Everyone's getting murdered by xenomorphs, and you're just like, let me stack these chairs real quick. Kind of let our corporate bosses know we're still on task.
But yeah, so that was, and that is your...
That is Alien 3.
Yeah.
That's the movie. So now let's get to the meat and potatoes of the video. We've discussed the movie. We've discussed clearly what we don't like about it. How do we fix the movie? You and I have both prepared different, we didn't compare notes or anything, ideas on how to fix the movie. The only notes I know is that, the only thing we know of each other is that I stayed fairly close to the original movie's story. And from what I understand, you maybe took it in a completely different direction.
I would literally scrap the whole thing.
I don't know if Alien 3 is so bad I'd scrap the entire thing. I'd
keep the, maybe, the planets and, those kinds of stuff. Probably not the whole double Y chromosome, since we're going to be having a 10-year-old child in this situation. She's already been through enough. We don't need to add rapists and murderers to her.
They all have X chromosomes, even the man.
But I mean, we could still keep that kind of stuff, but I'd keep our characters. I'd maybe make it a little, give more explanation, maybe a little more exposition so that you understand what's actually happening, where these face huggers came from.
Yeah, well, let's talk about it. We'll go ahead and we'll hear your pitch, and then I could do mine afterwards.
I mean, it's very clear that the Queen, got on the ship and was on the Sulaco with them. So what, did she, while riding up through space, did she lay a couple of eggs?
Look, I got a couple more in me. Hold on.
The thing is, she tore herself away from, her, whatever that was, the, sack thing.
Yes. Her egg sack.
Her egg sack. So we don't have enough background to know if, she's able to reproduce without that. We don't even understand where that part of her comes from, because obviously she's able to exist without it, as we see, and she's a giant xenomorph herself. So did she
messing with other people? You told me to get away from her, you bitch.
But yeah, it's just like I'd give more information. I'd maybe have them fighting it on the Sulaco.
Yeah.
You know, go back to the whole on the ship, like limited resources kind of thing, like lots of hidey holes and what have you. Make it
a lot of vents for a little girl to climb under.
Exactly. While being chased by more xenomorphs. Woo! Or at least face huggers.
Okay, so mine, I think we're actually not too far off.
Okay.
The idea for mine was instead of a double Y chromosome mining and refining facility, the idea is the planet had too thin of an atmosphere to be used as a colony, and so instead it got turned into, it's still like a prison planet, but it's not double Y chromosome. But the idea is there's a space station that orbits the planet that acts as that's like your warden's station.
Right.
So everything on the planet is only...
It's the offices and everything for all the...
So like all the guarding happens from orbit. And so they just...
Well, and they're able to go down to the planet in that situation, but like they have like a rotation and they sleep safely away from murderers.
And so instead of refining, I thought the idea of having the planet be sort of this depot where they decommission ships.
Okay.
And so the idea is that when we start the movie, we catch up with the Sulaco, and I had the idea in my head that we could do a callback to the first movie where they had the reflections of the monitors on those weird things, and it's the text, but we could see that there's a color difference in the text.
Okay.
And it's doing the clickety-clackety.
Of course. It wouldn't be.
Just a little callback to it. And then we find out later in the movie that when the Sulaco got back into... Because we never show any crew of the Sulaco.
Right, it's just
show
the
Marines.
Marines.
So my idea was like, okay, build on that. Be like, yeah, back in Ripley's day, they needed to have a flight crew and stuff like that.
Right, but now it's just automatic. Yeah.
And so they have standby flight crew, but it's the same crew that operates the drop ships.
Okay.
And they all died.
They very much did.
Bishop or... Probably Bishop, but maybe Hicks, whoever, punched in the coordinates to get him back to... I think they said at the end of the movie they're going to, like, the outer colonies or something. Can't remember exactly what it was. But when they got close enough in range of the outer colony, they were able to connect with the system there, in which Weyland-Yutani was able to pick it up, and they're able to remote access the ship and then redirect it, and then change its heading, since it's this planet. And so the movie opens, we get a shot of the computer, the monitors, things changing, and then we get a shot of Ripley, Hicks, and Newt in their respective pods, and then we get a lingering shot on the cargo bay where the music's just like a little ominous.
Right.
You see the dropship still parked there.
Right.
But there's just enough musical tone to let you know, like, something's off with that.
Right.
And then we get a wide shot of the ship as the camera's rotating upwards, and we realize there's this huge planet and this orbiting space station, and we see two small items ejected from the ship, drifting towards the station, while the ship is on a course for the planet. Okay. And so, in my version, we're still going to have Ripley isolated, but we're not killing off Newt and Hicks. Bishop will still be on the ship, and the next scene would then pick up with the ship landing, and it's got like the giant like mechanical arms bracing the ship in place, and we see it's a crew of like prisoner workers and that kind of thing, very blue collar, and they're doing like an initial pass over the ship, and we sort of get like enough of these probably still British, because that's British, British blue collar guys bitching and pissing and moaning about having to wait for like the bioscan or something. Right. And I'm going to just go ahead and do it. I'm going to nominate Charles Dance becomes the warden in this, or not the warden, but whatever like the leader on site would be. And be like, you have to do the bioscan. It's like, it's, company orders every time. And then to their surprise, for the first time ever, the bioscan picks up somebody alive. And it's revealed that, yes, it's Newt and Hicks' pods were ejected, but Ripley's pod is still on the ship. Okay. And then we get the scene where Ripley gets awoken, and we find out that because of the massive property damage and the debt that she still hasn't paid back to Weyland Yutani, she has been sentenced with the ship that's being decommissioned because Weyland Yutani has actually bought out and privatized the Colonial Marines, and so they could do that. They could just be like, we're decommissioning the Sulaco. And then our introduction to the alien comes in when they're sending survey teams in to do sort of the same thing, but not by hand, with paper, where they're going through and they're counting and collecting anything that has any value to the company.
Right.
That they either resell or reuse. And they're going through the cargo bay, and they come across the dropship, and they see that on the far side where the alien queen sort of dislodged herself, it's covered in that growth, that bio growth from the second movie.
Right.
And there's one egg that's lodged onto it.
Okay.
And so one of the guys is like reporting it, and you got the two guys like, oh my god, what a find. Like, we should, call it in. And the other guy's like, I don't know, man, that's some weird looking shit. Like, I'm not getting sick. And the other guy is like trying to convince him to leave, and they're sitting there arguing, and we watch the egg open from behind them.
Right.
And we see the facehugger come out, but it's different. It's bigger.
Okay.
And I had the idea that it might have like little quills or something on it, and its tail is actually bladed.
Ooh.
And when it jumps and leaps onto the first person, it doesn't immediately attach. It actually slices his throat, and it catches the second guy, and he's like crawling away while it's on him.
Mm-hmm.
And it manages to, I think what happens is he falls into the air duct that they ejected the queen from, so he can't get out, and it just leaps down on top of him, like he breaks his leg or something.
Right.
And so now the other guy can't call for help because he's dead.
Right.
And so we have two survey people dead. And then the film progresses sort of similar to how it is. I don't mind the whole weird religious iconography of it.
Right.
I like that it took something different, and I like the idea that these killers have bonded over their
right, over a shared
that they're not
worldview kind of thing.
So Ripley is, instead of just being like, well, I guess I'm stuck here, she's like, I guess I have to, this is my life now.
Right.
She's trying to figure out what happened with Hicks and Newt, and I think at some point she manages to get in contact. They're on the station in orbit, but they are under heavy armed guard.
Right. Just kind of showed up.
Yeah.
I mean,
Hicks
off a prison
Hicks is probably in the middle of being court-martialed because of his involvement with the second. But as for what's happening with Newt, for now they're keeping them together, but they don't know where that's going to go.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, we start to have people going missing. And we can see it's the alien that's doing it, and bodies are being collected.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a cut scene from the first movie.
Yeah, where Dallas and them are still they're being held.
Turned into an egg.
Right.
And I've always considered that it would be, they're supposed to be the perfect organism, but the way their biology is looped, it's really easy to be like, well, there's no queens, so no future.
Right.
So I like the idea that they're adaptable enough that they can repurpose organic material to keep the line going, so they can create another queen and then build another nest. All it takes is one. If you drop one xenomorph on a planet, as long as it can hide and gather enough organic material, then you're fucked.
Right, because eventually it's gonna...
eventually it'll get an egg, grow an egg, and so that's what it's doing at first. It's harvesting people, because then we get our hospital scene, instead of Charles Dance dying and someone else. Charles Dance is gonna make it. He's later into the movie. We're gonna introduce a great character and then just kill him off. I swear to God, by the end of that movie, I had to stop and remind myself Charles Dance was in this movie. Because it's just and he no longer matters. But towards that middle scene, where that hospital scene would happen, when the alien is capturing somebody else and Ripley is in that hospital with them, the alien about to kill... Maybe it is Charles Dance. It's about to kill Charles Dance, and then it sees Ripley, and its primary function changes.
Right.
And we get the idea that the queen is able to imprint memories with the embryos that she leaves in the eggs, and so it's coming for that's the whole reason they got on the ship. It's gonna go to fuck the shit out of Ripley.
Right.
Fuck the shit out. And so now the alien, that's its whole mission.
Is
So I want to do it the opposite of what the movie did. Instead of the alien won't kill me, it's the alien ultimately wants to kill me.
It only wants to kill me.
It no longer cares as much about
all the others. People. They're just collateral damage kind of thing.
Now get Ellen Ripley.
Right.
And so she's got to try to figure out a way to kill this creature. And I still love that corridor scene. Mm-hmm. And so I wanted to change it, but reincorporate it and have it be their final plan to kill it is because the whole time the automated system has been dismantling the Sulaco.
Right.
But one of the few parts of it that hasn't been dismantled yet are the engines, and so they're going to roast it.
Oh, okay.
Instead of the press, they're going to use the engines of the Sulaco to roast it to death. Of course, when the company finds out, then we can get our team that comes down. Whether or not I don't want to keep the bishop scene, but it's not as much of a concern here. But in the end, Ripley and the creature and some of the few remaining survivors, and I want to give Ripley the scene that they give to the leader of the
Dylan,
the leader of the prisoners, where she's caught with her back against the wall, and she knows if she tries to escape, it will pursue her. Mm-hmm. The only thing keeping it in the trap is her, and so she gives her life to stop it, thinking and you can give her a cool scene where it's slowly coming up to her, all full of menace and all that. And Charles Dance is somewhere be like, you gotta get out of there, but much more English and much more handsome. And Ripley has her whole no, I've been fighting these monsters ever since they killed my crew back on the Nostromo.
Right.
I'm finishing this, and she hits the button, and then the engine turns on and fucking burns the shit out of them. And then the final scene would be Hicks and Newt, and they are being loaded onto a ship. And they're hearing some of the other Wayland people being like, the retrieval team is coming back. Specimen A destroyed, Ellen, Ripley, Ellen, wasn't able to be retrieved, that kind of thing. But then they're saying specimen found.
Okay.
And the final shot is Hicks being clubbed in the face when he tries to jump up with the butt of a rifle, because in front of them is being dragged out on a stretcher, and it's Charles Dance, and he's got a face hugger on, and it's a third different type of face hugger, setting up the fact that the egg finally had enough biomaterial, and the Charles Dance found the queen face hugger, and is now impregnated with a queen. And now Weyland-Yutani has it. So we can set up Alien 4, because Resurrection doesn't have a number. Alien 4 is just a Hicks and Newt story, with them assumingly being transferred to a Weyland facility with a brand new queen.
And trying to get rid of that. Yes. Okay, I like that. That would be way better.
That's my fix for Alien 3. It still serves as an end to Ripley's story, because I felt like that was really tacked on at the end of this movie, where it's the end of a trilogy. And I'm like, is it?
No, it was not.
Not only did they make another one later, but B, it's kind of a terrible end to her story. It's such a downer ending.
It is, yeah.
You kill off all the connections, right?
And she didn't even,
You can have that moment where, as she's about to die, she's like, I'm doing this for you, Newton. I'm doing it for you, Hicks. And, so you don't have to deal with this anymore. Unbeknownst to her, they're still dealing with it, but in her mind, she's saving them.
Right.
To me, that's a more beautiful ending versus, oh, that other guy just died for me. Well, I guess I'll die too.
Right. Well, and it's just... Ellen Ripley is the kind of character that needs to go out in a blaze of glory.
She's a hero.
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole story has been her rise from, her call to action with these monsters.
Right.
And the end of her story should be her going out on her terms, taking the threat with her.
Instead of, the kind of anticlimactic... falling into a molten lava pit.
Yeah, very Christ-like, Even
with the holding the, either way, it's anticlimactic. Because she's at peace. She's not, fighting for it. She's just oh, yeah, this is a thing I have to do.
Cool. YOLO. One of the ideas I had was that with this movie, I think it was a good call to introduce a different kind of alien. But I think the runner doesn't work. And so the idea I had for this one would have been like, this alien was produced because of the Queen's just like rage and like understanding that her hive was destroyed. So this is like a
revenge.
This is the jacked version of it. And so yeah, like I wanted to have. There was that scene.
It's the warrior ants and ants.
Yeah, and so like the idea that the ones we saw before are more drones. They're equal, like they're super deadly.
Right, but
like,
they're more the like
pedestrian.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are the workers.
Right.
They'll still wreck your life.
Oh, yeah.
In a heartbeat, but those are just the workers. And so this is like the warrior version of that.
Right.
And so it would have like, I wanted to have a lot of focus on its tail.
Okay.
I really love that scene in the second movie where Ripley's fighting with it and we're watching its tail do the whole like, knife dancer and then the whoosh as it's like trying to stab with it.
Yeah.
And to sort of do a callback to that with this creature, have like a really long tail with this huge barbed end of it, and have it every time it's fighting, it cuts to the tail, like switching for a moment, and then the shot of it stabbing it. And so like make the tail more of a component, because there's a tiny scene in Alien 3 where they touch on right before she starts tugging on the tail. It's like whipping its tail around before then, like threateningly, like don't fuck with me, Ellen. I won't kill you, but don't fuck with me either, right? And I was like, you could have easily built that out more, because then it's a lot more scary. Like, instead of the scene where it's just like, about to get you, like when standing in front of Ripley or another character we care about, have it where it's doing the tail behind it.
Right.
And it's like...
kind of ups the tension in the scene.
You're watching its hands, you're watching its mouth, and then you've got this tail behind it.
Right.
And you're trying to track all of its different ways it can kill you.
Yeah.
And it's too much. So like the tail will flick, but then the claw comes this way.
Right. Up the tension, because you don't know what's going to happen.
You just have to be bigger. I don't want it to do the running on all four thing, but I like the climbing on the walls, so maybe there's some element of it.
Right.
But I do love that where it's running through the hallways, and so maybe there's some element where it can move faster if it drops on all fours or something like that. But yeah, that's my pitch. Take what didn't work and make it better. That's how we fix Alien 3. Well, we've run longer than I thought we would, but that's okay. We took our time explaining the movie.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of Retcon here on We the Fandom. If you have your own ideas on how you fix the movie, if you want to rate and see what we were wrong about, are you a hardcore Alien 3 lover and you're offended by this Metacritic score and our own opinion of it, let us know.
And I would want to know why.
Yeah, like that's a conversation.
I need to have that conversation with you.
We will be glad to have it. Let us know what you thought, and we'll see you guys next time.
Bye!
Hey again, everyone. Thanks for listening to this episode of We the Fandom. If you liked it and wanted to hear more, head over to nonessentialmedia.com and check out amazing shows like Lifecast, Beach City Crows, and my other podcast, Zeros at the Tabletop, which I'm happy to announce is returning for a new arc. I know my fellow creators and myself are super grateful for you for checking out our podcast. If you have anything you want to share with us, or just wanted to let us know you're listening, feel free to reach out to us through our various social media accounts, all listed again on nonessentialmedia.com. Thanks again for listening.